it's just all about like little micro shifts and changes of learning, like you can put yourself first, because ultimately, like, I don't want to end up in the hospital again or have my daughter watch me and be like, oh, this is normal to feel like you're like losing it all the time.
Welcome to the Worthy Mother podcast, where we discuss all things identity, self-compassion, and fulfillment within and beyond motherhood. I'm Emily Rose Hardy, a mindset and self-love coach for moms. I am a firm believer that to be able to take care of our children, we must take care of ourselves first. This is not a parenting podcast. No, this is a podcast where we will challenge the societal expectations of what it means to be a mom, demystify the perfect mom myth, and learn to love ourselves. You are worthy, mama. Let's do this. Welcome to the Worthy Mother podcast. Today we are going to be exploring how you can go from overwhelmed and feeling drained in motherhood to empowered and in control through boundaries. So setting boundaries, holding boundaries, all things boundaries. We're going to be diving in deep. So joining us today is Whitney Gardner of the Bold Mama Co. Whitney, welcome to the podcast. Can you just tell us about yourself and what you do, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a mom myself to a daughter who's about 19 months now. And I am a dog mama and I am a wife. I live in Texas, and I'm also the CEO of the Bold Mama Co., which is an online service-based business geared to help moms learn how to have work-life balance and practice self-care. And my main method is through setting boundaries and making sure that moms know everything that they need to know in order to live their best lives and have their full potential, because I just don't believe that losing yourself in motherhood should be like something that, if you don't want to do that, like, we should all feel fully empowered to like live our best lives, even though we are moms. And like, my whole thing is it's okay to be selfish and put yourself first and learn how to, be able to do it all and still take care of yourself.
Oh, speaking my language. I love it. So we have talked about boundaries here on the Worthy Mother podcast, but I would love to know like what it means to you to set boundaries, and what are some examples of what that can kind of look like in a mom's life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, boundaries can really be applied to like so many different aspects of your life, but some of the main pillars that I focus on are within your relationships, within your self-care, and within your daily schedule, like not feeling too overwhelmed or overcommitted. So those are some of like the main pillars that you could use them on. And then in regards to how you actually can like implement them in your daily life and like what that looks like is, for example, with self-care, like making sure that you spend at least 1 hour a day doing something that you feel like is going to be the best thing for you. Like today, for me, that was taking a nice long shower, washing my hair, like doing all that stuff. But it looks different every day. That could be a workout. But as long as I get at least an hour to myself to feel the best that I can, like, I'm good with that. So that's like a boundary with self-care you could implement. Within relationships, my main boundaries that I've set are only being around people who are very uplifting, positive, make me feel like the best version of myself, who are supportive. I've had to let a lot of people go out of my life who didn't serve me. And even though it was tough at the time, it's just like, I know it was the best decision because my life looks totally different now than it would. And I'm so glad I did that. And then within my schedule, like learning how to say no and let go of different activities that may not really be serving you. Like, are you saying yes just because you feel like someone else is going to be mad at you if you don't go to something, or like, what's your real reason why you're committing to an activity? Or like when you overschedule, making sure that you are doing what you really want to do and not feeling like you're forced into doing anything that you don't want to do, and making sure that you really schedule out your time to like still fit in time for you and what you need and what your family needs, and not putting other people's needs first.
Yeah, I think it's so important to recognize that boundaries mean so many different things. And these like explicit conversations about like, it's okay to set boundaries, this is how you do it. Most of us were not like we didn't have these conversations growing up, and we just kind
Right.
of pop out into the world and are expected to like be able to do all the things and
Yeah.
not complain about it, not like,
Mhm.
not have a hard time. And if you have a hard time, just suck it up and keep going. And I love the pillars that you have, how it just kind of helps
Mhm.
you see like what is important to you
Mhm.
and then clearly define like what that needs to look like in your life to kind of make it so that you have the self-care that you need, that you have the relationships that you desire and want.
Mhm.
And I love that, like, okay, I'm going to spend an hour a day on self-care,
Mhm.
whatever that means to me. But it's like, it's so clearly defined, the
Mhm.
like parameters of it. If you get more, cool, but it's going to be at least this much. And then you can tell if like, I'm not hitting that.
Mhm.
At least you have the clearly defined kind of mark of what that is, what that goal is, so that you can like reevaluate the boundary and like where do boundaries with your schedule need to be more solid, more firm? Where can you say no? Where can you kind of, make more time for yourself and like what you need to get out of that? And so I think there's just a lot in there that we all can take and like think about in our own lives where our boundaries like not
Good.
not
I
doing
love
it for
it.
us.
That's what I love about boundaries is it like a lot of people think that it's black and white, but I feel like
Hmm.
everything is gray. But at the same time, having some kind of like set guidelines for things just makes everything so much more helpful when you're
Yeah.
like trying to figure out like, am I doing a good job with this or is this working in my life? Like just asking those questions for yourself and trying to figure out what's going to be best for you and just as the mom, like putting yourself first and yeah, being able to be okay with that.
Yeah. Especially like when you have kids,
Mhm.
as moms, things are constantly changing. It's like we're not going to get it right always, and things are constantly changing. We're going to have to keep checking in and reevaluating. So I think it is really powerful to like when you have it clearly defined. I'm thinking of like SMART goals. Like
Yeah,
when you have
I
it
love those.
measurable, you know exactly what the like
Mhm.
what you're measuring it up to.
Mhm.
And there's going to be times in our lives where the boundaries are going to be wonky and not working
Mhm.
for us. And so knowing though that there's this ideal so that we can continually like check and say, how do I hold this more firm? How do I make sure that this is actually a priority in my life?
Mhm.
I would love to hear from you, like the
Mhm.
benefits that you see of setting boundaries, especially for moms, especially for busy moms. Why do boundaries make such a huge difference?
Oh my gosh. So even in my own life, I've had such a huge transition. When I was around 6 months postpartum, I was working full time online while I was watching my daughter at home. This is over a year ago now. And I was having panic attacks. I was super stressed. I was just feeling like so horrible, honestly, about like where I was at. Like I loved being a mom, but my 9 to 5 was not serving me. And I was just going through all of these things that I was like, okay, something really needs to change. And like spiritually, I definitely knew that I needed to be on a different path, like with work at least, being able to be serving in a different way. Like what I was doing was not serving me. So going from like being overwhelmed, having panic attacks, realizing that what I was doing wasn't going to work anymore. I really had to make some really big shifts because I did some self care, but I didn't have any sort of like hardcore morning routine. Like I would wake up like 5 minutes before I had to go somewhere or like get online to like work. I didn't understand a lot of these things. And I don't even know how it happened. But over the last year, I've had like huge shifts in spirituality with my routines, with setting boundaries, feeling comfortable saying no to people. And I think it's just all about like little micro shifts and changes of learning like you can put yourself first because ultimately like I don't want to end up in the hospital again
Hmm.
or have my daughter watch me and be like, "Oh, this is normal to feel like you're like losing it all the time." And mindset is so important. So I think just realizing once I put that like first how big my changes were going to be, like it's seriously been so life changing for me. So I think that the benefits are I mean, the biggest ones are feeling like you're really in control of, like, your emotions and your schedule and your relationships, feeling like you're no longer drained because you're actually, like, filling up your cup first. Organization, like, personal organization. For the first time ever, I actually bought, like, a planner I'm using every day, and this was a New Year's resolution, so this was only, like a week ago that I started doing this, and I'm already noticing huge shifts and changes, being a little more organized with my personal life and like writing down like what I'm actually accomplishing throughout the day and how I'm feeling. And it's actually like a manifestation journal. So it's really cool. It has all these great prompts and stuff. So being able to be more organized in your daily life, feeling like you aren't resentful, that was my biggest one, was just feeling like when I was in that really bad place, I just felt so resentful because I wasn't making any time for myself. And I felt like all I did was either like worked or help the baby or had to do chores. And I wasn't making that even hour for myself. So it was just like having a really hard time with that. So those are some of the negatives. And then some of the positives are, obviously, you feel so much more empowered. You can feel more confident throughout your day, like learning how to say no and make decisions that actually benefit you, being able to feel like you are doing the best you can, having a lot of those big mindset shifts with like thinking of abundance and gratitude and just knowing like you're doing the best that you can is some of just the biggest benefits that boundaries can have, because there are so many. And it depends on
Yeah.
like whatever situation you're trying to improve. I'm just trying to think of some of my moms, what they're telling me, because it worked,
Yeah.
whatever they want to fix and how boundaries can help, and for my own life too.
Yeah. There's a lot in there, and thinking about how when life gets really, really hard and you have like very poor boundaries or no
Mhm.
boundaries in place, and it starts impacting your mental health, because the way the world is set up, the way that we kind of exist in the world, it's kind of this go, go, go mentality. That's kind of what we're fed. So if we don't set boundaries to that, right? We don't set
Mhm.
different expectations for ourselves and what we will allow in our lives, then very likely we're going to end up drained. We're going to end up
Yeah.
feeling like we're on the path to burnout and
Mhm.
whatever it is. And so when that is the case, you hit a point where like you have to have the boundaries. You can't keep doing it, right? And that's not the goal, right?
Yeah.
It's better to like realize that, okay, there's a need for a boundary here, and set the boundary without having to get to that like rock bottom
Mhm.
place.
Yeah.
And I love that you gave some examples of like different ways that that can look in your life, like
Mhm.
just being a little bit more organized, like
Mhm.
having the kind of routine in place. Like routines can be a form of a boundary, right? Like having the
Mhm.
routine in place to kind of keep checking in with yourself and what you're supposed to be doing, like the intention you've set for yourself and all of that, and just how impactful that can be going through your day and going through your life, especially when you're taking care of a little one that like
Mhm.
requires a lot of your attention and energy.
Mhm.
You use the word empowered there. And I
Mhm.
would love to like dig in a little bit more to that, because I think sometimes when we talk about boundaries, it can feel like just something we have to do to
Yeah.
avoid the burnout, right?
Mhm.
But when we kind of bring it to this place of like, actually, when you are setting clear boundaries and holding those boundaries, you can feel more empowered in motherhood and in life. Can you just share your thoughts on that? Like what that
Yeah.
looks like for moms?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's one of my biggest things these days is feeling so empowered, like as a CEO, as a mom, as a wife. Like I have so much of a bigger voice now that I have learned how to put myself first and talk about things in a way. And this is all with balance too. Obviously I
Hmm.
know like my daughter is my biggest priority, but it's just having like some kind of parameters around like things that do make me happy, and just like learning how to accept that too, in with work, being like I love what I'm doing and I am hoping to build like a multi-million dollar business. I want to be on the cover of Forbes. I want to go on talk shows. Like I want to do all these things, and just feeling like I can say that with a form of empowerment to be like, dang, I am like doing a great job. And that is just so exciting. But a lot of those things wouldn't have come into practice if I wasn't like setting boundaries and thinking positive and trying to realize like what was really important to me. And like, it's almost like an owning it kind of thing.
Hmm.
Like if you really want something, you just need to like own it and have that energy of like, this is what I want. This is what I'm doing. Here's what I'm going to do to get there. These are some of the goals that I'm going to have. My mom always said she never wanted me to lose myself once I was a mom. And I'm just so about that, because now I feel like everything in my life has fallen into place like so well, because I always wanted to be a wife. I always wanted to be a mom. And now that I'm there, I'm kind of like, what's next? Like, I feel like a lot of people think that their life like ends or that they have to put themselves last, but I'm like, this is just a start for me. Like now I get to like go out and, I'm going to be doing public speaking and I'm going to be helping like as a coach and I'm going to be doing all these things. I'm like, none of that probably would have happened because of the way that I was before in my life. Like I didn't have the skills yet and I didn't have that empowerment to believe that I could even do stuff like that. But after becoming a mom and just feeling like, honestly, like once you give birth, like that is probably one of the most empowering experiences you'll ever have. Like there's just so many things about motherhood that we should feel so proud that we did and like that we're capable of. And the fact that we're taking care of like little people in whatever form that is, like that's so awesome. And you should feel so proud of yourself. And like that just makes you feel like such a boss. You're like, I can go out and do anything now. Like my life goals are like some of them are accomplished. And now it's just like, just trying to get better and better. And now it's like, what can you do for you that are like some of your life goals that you really want to do? And like, what hobbies do you want to have? Or like, what do you want to do with your time? And like, obviously our kids take a lot of time too, but it's just feeling like some of that is now like settled. So you can think like more creatively and stuff.
I love hearing moms talk about like their things and their goals and like big visions. Cause I relate so much to that of like realizing there's so much more. It's not just like this end point. And that's a huge part of like what I speak to. Something that's like coming forward is like the protecting of your goals, of the things that you value, the things that are important, and how when you have the boundaries, you then are empowered to own it, like you said. And it's like protecting that piece of yourself that you want to like run with, right? You're like, you get to do that because you're not just like floundering and trying to figure out how to like survive the day. And obviously, like there might be days where you're trying to figure out how to survive the day. Like I have plenty of those with my two little ones at home.
Yeah, me
but
too.
we have boundaries in place to like work through that and help us be empowered to choose what we want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's just like setting up a structure so you can do more than just, like you said, kind of survive.
Yeah, totally. So I'm curious what your own experience setting boundaries has looked like. You've talked about like some of the things that you do in your life to give yourself that space to feel empowered to follow your dreams and also like show up as a mom. But I'm wondering like what the actual process of like setting boundaries was and how it's impacted you and your family.
Yeah. So I have a lot of experience with it. I think like going back to the self-care for me, when I realized, okay, I really needed to make some changes, I realized the biggest one was choosing to move to Texas. So I was from California where I had to work and I had to do a lot of these things because the cost of living over there was just so expensive. So honestly, just like making the choice and setting the boundary of like, I know that there's much more to my life and I need to go and see what that's all going to be about. And my family's just going to be able to like be outside more and have a backyard and like do all these things. That was probably like one of the biggest like shifts with my self-care was realizing I don't want to do this old job anymore. I need to be in a different environment and it's going to benefit me and my whole family for like so many reasons, why we moved here. And so just realizing that, like the mental self-care really made a big difference. And then like leading off of that, I was like, okay, well, if I don't have to work, maybe I could start like a fun thing again. But then this little fun thing became now it's going to be a whole like business, which is so fun because I didn't know that that's where it was going to lead. Like originally I just started with like a little blog and then I was like, oh, but what about a course? What about a podcast again? Because I actually had a podcast back in 2020 called Words with Wit. I think I put out like 10 episodes or something. And I was like, dang, this is a lot of work. And I was getting get engaged and married and all these things. And I was like, okay, not the right time. But anyways, just being able to be like, okay, I can go back to that. And I've always had like an entrepreneurial spirit to be like, okay, so now it's my time to like follow what I really want to do. And it just kind of all like evolved and stuff. So once I realized that I could move here, I don't know, I had so many changes with my change of environment, with setting up, like I said, like my morning routine. I just started reading a lot of different books and listening to a lot of different podcasts about your morning. And now I do like prayer, meditation, gratitude. I read. I do like all these things to set myself up for success. Those just like few things in the morning have made like the biggest shifts. I wake up a lot earlier now. I have a like much better like schedule with those types of things that have really just helped me so much. So that's like a little bit with the self-care. And then within relationships, like I said, I've had to let some people go, like friends and very close family, because I just realized like that it was not going to be a relationship that was like worth investing. I
Mhm.
have like a very big story, like with my dad. He basically got remarried to this woman who I'm still convinced doesn't want me a part of their life. And it was really hard for me because I basically was like, I really, want a relationship with you. And it just kind of ended up not working out. And I tried again and I was like, "Okay, you have not grown and you're not willing to like, put your daughter first. And I'm sorry, but that's just not going to work for me." And I decided to like leave that relationship. And I think that that was one of the most empowering things was once I sent the last message of basically like, "Don't contact me again." I think that that was the most empowering thing that I could have done for myself because it was on my terms. And I decided like that I didn't wanna be waiting around anymore for an answer or feel like he might reach out. Like, now I can kinda, like, move on with my life.
Mhm.
That's probably the biggest one with feeling empowered within my relationships, and then with my schedule, I just learned how to say no, and unless I really wanna do something, like, my time is so precious, especially as a mom, but, like, my kid and my business and my husband come first, and then everything else, like birthday parties or, like, whatever, going out or doing whatever, it's just second, and really making that empowered choice of like, do I really want to go to this? Do I really want to be around these people? And I've said no to a lot of things and I've chosen to stay home and just like sit and watch TV or do what I want to do. And I like so happy and I love it. And I've just become such more of a homebody now too. But I just like love owning that. I feel so good when I'm home. So and I
Yeah.
love to work. So I'm like anytime I'm by myself, like working, I'm like super happy that
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it really like all comes back to knowing what you want and then making the empowered choice and doing
yeah.
what you need to do to make sure that that's like what you're getting. And if we're just in autopilot, if we're just doing what we think we're supposed to do, it just drains us. And,
Mhm.
it can have such a negative impact. And so, like, actually getting clear on what you want, what you value, what you need in your life is
Mhm.
so, so huge.
Yeah.
When you work with moms on, setting boundaries, coming up with like
Mhm.
what they need, what are the biggest sticking points or challenges that you see?
I've seen that the biggest challenges, like the common themes were feeling disorganized, feeling
Hmm.
stressed, and feeling like they have no self-care time in the day.
Yeah.
Those have been the 3 biggest themes that I've, like, seen.
When then like they're coming to you for support in those areas, what has
Mhm.
held them back from like being able to set the boundaries in the first place? Like, is it a lack of clarity of what they need?
I think a lot of times people don't even realize how bad things are until a change is made, and they're like, "Whoa, this is so much better." Not
Yeah.
even like, "Oh, this is bad," but, "Oh, look
Yeah.
at how much better things can be once I do really what I wanna do and, like, set these boundaries and, like, have that up level basically of their life instead of just feeling, like, mediocre or, like, coasting," you know?
No, totally, totally. It's like we expect that like it's gonna be hard and it's gonna be like, okay, this is just how it is. So I
Mhm.
totally get that of like you don't even necessarily consider that there's another way to do it if
Yeah.
you're just kind of like living it and you're just getting through it and
Yeah.
not even recognizing that like, oh, I could actually be like thriving in this and doing the
Yeah.
things that I need for me and all of that.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the things that have really, set me apart in life is I am constantly trying to like grow and be a better version of myself. And I've read so many books and listened to podcasts and I call myself like a forever student. I'm like a forever student just trying to like learn more so then I can share like the best of my knowledge with other people and like things that have worked for me in an honest and authentic way to like very much just to help other moms and other women, but not everyone even thinks about some stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, totally. What advice do you have for a mom who like knows that they need better boundaries and wants to like work on boundaries within the realms of self-care, relationships, or their
Mhm.
schedule, or all
Mhm.
three? How do they go about doing that? How do we go about even like figuring out what we need and then implementing those
Mhm.
boundaries?
I think some good steps is number one. The first thing is always to become aware. Like, what are
Mhm.
you doing that's working or not working? But a lot of times, like I said, when we're just coasting or we're just like going through things, a lot of times we don't even realize, like, we're not thinking or have that awareness. So the awareness is definitely step number one, is just starting to think like, okay, is this working for me? Like when I was changing my schedule of waking up 5 minutes before I had to like go on a Zoom call or something, I'm like, okay, this is not working for me. But I had to become aware, like, okay, this is not working in order to make a change. So I would say the awareness is number one. And how you do that is start to make a list of like your daily tasks or things that you're happy or not happy with, and think about how can I change that to be better. So I would say become aware, make a list, and then within those things that you do make a list that you want to change, think about different ways that you could change them. Like for each one, maybe make like three different alternatives to it, or three ways that you could make it work. And then just like keep digging deeper. I'm like, why is that important to me? Like, what kind of person do I want to become? What kind of habit could I use to implement this? And you could kind of like chart it out almost. That
Yeah.
could be something really good to like implement. I love to like write things down, so that works for me. And then just realizing like how to do things and how to make changes, and just like do research and stay open-minded and try new techniques. You never know what's going to work for you until you try it. So then the next step to that, after you've realized some things that you could change, is just trying different things and just staying open-minded, and getting help if you need
Yeah.
it, or like there's podcasts like this. You just never know like what you're gonna come across or like what's gonna stick. And this is like, for me, it's been years of like trial and error and seeing what things work. And every year is just like more and more of a progression. So things like build off of each other. And like something that I learned was like, I've read different self-help books in the past that I was like, kind of, I don't know, they didn't do a lot for me, but then I reread them like a few years later and they've helped me immensely. So just realizing where you're at in your journey too, and everything is like, you're right where you need to be. It's just, if you want to get better, just try new things. So that's what I would say is awareness, action with the like mapping it out, and then progress, just taking like little steps to make little changes and try new things.
Yeah, I love that. And I love it's like always a work in progress, and
Oh yeah.
always like we have different needs at different points in our life. And when we're like, deficient in some areas of our life because whatever has happened, or we just need more at
Mhm.
that point, and how like just knowing that what you need is going to change. And so there has to be so much self-compassion in the process, but it's not
Mhm.
even necessarily just from a place of like, I might not get this right, but also like, I'm constantly going to have to be kind of figuring out what I need right now and figuring out how to like protect the time and the space to get that. And yeah, knowing that we're not going to always have it right, because that's not how life works. It's always changing and it's always flowing. And if we are continuously bringing the awareness, though, that can be just a really powerful tool to make sure that we can set the boundaries, we can live the life, the empowered life that we want to live.
Yeah, exactly. Everything is a work in progress, and
Yeah.
something that works for you right now might not work for you in a year. And I'm sure I'm going to be in a totally different place in a year than I am right now, but just focusing on what is working for you right now and taking like little steps and just not getting too overwhelmed. Maybe only focus on changing like one thing every day, or like three things in a week or something. Just don't overwhelm yourself, because a lot of times with personal development or doing things that you want to change, it can be super overwhelming.
Hmm.
But that's why it's good to just like write it out, and just like if you have one small win a day, like that's so great, and like celebrate every little thing that you feel like you did well that day, and have that gratitude for yourself for even showing up and being a mom.
Yeah. Yes. Always.
You're like,
Because no
I showed
matter
up and
what,
changed a diaper today. Like, I
right?
did so good. Like, seriously, just start talking to yourself like that and see all the amazing changes that come.
Yeah. It's almost like the boundary from the negative self-talk, or the like, I'm not doing
Yeah.
enough. It's like we have to have even that like internal mindset boundary of like,
Mhm.
look, I'm doing a lot. And so even if I'm doing the bare minimum, it's a lot. I remember when my second son was born, I was going to therapy, having some kind of postpartum anxiety and things
Yeah.
like that. And that was one thing my therapist always said. She's like, did you get up and feed your kids? Like, were they fed and like taken care of and safe? Okay, then like you did enough. Like if that's all you do, you did
Yeah.
enough. So let's celebrate that. And then yeah, sometimes you're gonna have, hopefully most of the time you're gonna have the capacity to do more and do more for yourself and whatever it is. But I think that's such an important point, just like how crucial it is to acknowledge the minimum,
Mm-hmm.
just showing
Definitely.
up.
And that you made such a good point too. Like throughout different times of motherhood, you're going to feel like you have less time or less like space for yourself. And that's okay too. Like everything goes in like seasons. And so when you're having a hard time, you could just be like, this is just a season of like a struggle. And like for me, like when I was breastfeeding the first year, like that definitely is hard. And it's like mentally, physically, like with your time, with everything. And then as soon as I was
Yeah.
out of that for the last 6 months, I'm like, okay, now it's time to really focus on me and my business. And then once I go back into wanting to be a mom and trying for a baby again in maybe like 3 to 6 months, then it's going to be, okay, now I'm back into baby mode. Now I have to take care of myself when I'm pregnant. I need to work less. I need to be less stressed. And then we just go through like seasons of
Mhm.
changes. And then eventually they're going to like leave us and then we're going to have all this time and be able
Yeah,
to do whatever we want. And then it's going to be a different season then, just accepting
totally.
wherever you're at right now and knowing that it's not going to be this way forever. It's an evolving process, especially with the different ages and like what you're going through as a mom. And are you postpartum? How long have you been out of, one thing? And yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I'd love to like kind of just zoom out onto the bigger picture of
Yeah.
society, like looking
Yeah.
at the impact of moms setting boundaries for themselves. What are the benefits outside of the home and outside of the family when we get all of us doing this, doing a better job of like putting ourselves first?
Yeah, I think that there could be so many. I just feel like, to have other people even look up to you, like who may or may not be moms yet, if they see that you're able to take care of yourself, I just feel like everything has such a positive reaction. Like I'm all about energy. And so like if you're giving out the highest vibration for yourself, like you are going to attract that in your
Mhm.
relationships with other people. I've noticed like since I'm a happier person, when I go out with just random people, like even at the grocery store trying to order something, like everyone's so nice because I'm in such a high vibrational state. Like you're going to attract what you are. So when you are in that place, I just feel like everything is going to be it's much more in the flow. Like you're going to be in the flow, doing your thing, feeling good, and it just has such a positive impact on society and the world because you are like making a difference and you're able to like think outside of yourself. And once you have like a schedule and you are more organized and you feel like really good, then you can like think about other people. And like with my baby and stuff, I'm now like thinking of even better things that I could do as a mom. I'm not just like surviving. I'm thinking about, oh, like I could hire a tutor for her if I wanted. Oh, I could take her on this really great trip. Oh, I could do this. And I just feel like I'm so much more like open. And I feel like a lot of the times, like going to our kids, like we want to teach them skills that we didn't have like growing up or that our parents didn't teach us. So for me, like setting boundaries and going into personal development and doing all these things to like level up my life, that's just showing my daughter like how great your life could be. And that I at least have the skills to teach you some of these different things and like to help her feel more empowered and to help her want to help other people with like whatever gift she wants to give to the world. And she's already like such a smiley, happy, energetic, like sweet baby that everyone loves every time we go out anywhere. And I just know that that's probably a result of the way that I feel and my husband feels like inside because we are able to like give out that vibrational stuff because we also work as a team. But I mean, I know that from when I was like when she was little, if I was like stressed out, I swear she would like just start crying like immediately and just feel like not as good. But once you're in that good state, your kids can feed off of that energy and other people can feed off of that energy. And you're just going to attract like better and more abundance in your life once you switch like that mindset. So there's a lot that goes into it. But I think that that's like the biggest takeaway is you're just going to
Yeah.
attract what you are and what you're giving out. So I feel like that could apply to like so many different things, and I'm all about like manifesting and, trying like the spiritual route too, and just staying open-minded, because you just never know what's going to help you.
I love that. It's like the ripple effects. There's so many
Yes.
ripple effects, and it's hard to even
Yes.
like quantify what that is, because
Right.
it's just so much goodness can come from when you're acting from a place of like empowerment and that full cup that we talk about, right? It's huge, and there's impacts within the home, but also on the people we encounter in our lives, just showing up as better people, better versions of
Yes.
ourselves.
Exactly. Because we all
I
want
love
that.
it. Yes. Yeah. No, we totally all do. And it's like, we may not realize we want that. We may not realize we want to be like engaging in the world in a more positive way, but it feels good.
Yeah. It does. It's all about the way that you feel inside, and just recognizing that too.
Yeah. So, something that I love to do in these episodes is talk about self-care really explicitly, because I am like
Yay.
all about normalizing self-care, which I can tell you are too, just really making
Yeah.
that a normal thing for moms. I think
Oh,
there's so many
yeah.
messages out there that tell us that it's selfish and that being selfish is a bad thing and all
Right.
that. So, in the spirit of normalizing self-care, I would love to know, you've shared some things, but how do you take care of yourself? And do you have any tips for moms to make sure that they are caring for themselves regularly?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. So for myself, I go into like the mind, body, soul.
Mhm.
So for my mental health, like I said, I wake up early. I drink my coffee in peace before everything starts. And then I go into prayer, meditation, gratitude, and I read. So that's like some of the morning things that I do to set myself up for success. And then I go on social media and I do like, well, post while I'm walking on the treadmill. And then I try to habit stack and like do as many things as I can before she's awake. So those are some of the things like in the morning for my mental health and a little bit of spiritual health. And then for my body, I eat pretty healthy. I love to stay active. So I do have a walking pad because I work from home, which has helped us so much. Like I walk at least 30 minutes a day, and then I do weight training twice a week. I have a virtual personal trainer who tells me like exactly like with weights and stuff. And she helped me with postpartum and with prenatal workouts too. She's amazing. And it's been so great to have that resource to stay consistent and like have that little bit of motivation. But I do everything at home because I'm not a gym person. I really focus on my sleep. Like today, I slept until almost 9 o'clock, and that's like huge. And I only do that every once in a while because I love to wake up early, but prioritizing sleep and rest is like super big for your body to like recover, especially if you're like a new mom. Stretching, foam rolling, hydration, vitamins. I do a bunch of like holistic health and wellness stuff. And then for my soul, I do prayer. I talk to my spirit guides. I do a lot of energy work with like Gabby Bernstein. I have her app, and I just like love learning about like different things within that like spiritual realm too. So I kind of like do a mix of holistic like health and wellness, I call it, lots of different things. And then on like the more fun side, I love to take long showers and do dry brushing and exfoliation and like all of those types of things, massages, nails, all that kind of fun stuff. But like the daily self-care is like those other things that I mentioned. And then also doing like the more fun things. Cause I feel like a lot of times we don't even really realize like what self-care is, but that could be anything from like going on a walk outside by yourself. I don't even care if you're like, sometimes when I'm really upset, I just want to be in the car by myself going to Chick-fil-A getting like a meal. And I feel so much better when I come back. And I'm just like, okay, I could call my Chick-fil-A. I feel better. Like I just talked about being healthy, but it's all the 80-20. Like I love dessert. I like drinking. I like having fun, but most of the time I like love my vegetables and I eat super clean, mostly gluten-free, stuff like that. But anyways, so it could just look different for everybody. So again, going back to like that experimenting, like if you have a list of like 10 or 20 ideas, like just try like one or two a day and see like what do you like, what makes an impact, but you do have to stay consistent with a lot of them. But just also know, again, 80-20. Like today I didn't get to as many things as I wanted to do because I chose to sleep in and I chose to take a long shower. So some of my other things got pushed, but that's okay too. So it's just kind of like taking it day by day and accepting like whatever you didn't get done is okay, but at least you tried to do like a couple of things for yourself.
Yeah, I love that.
Those are some of my things. I love it.
Yeah, there were some things you said in there when you're talking specifically about like taking care of your body and just like finding the things that work for you. You're not a gym person, so that would be not really fully effective if you went to the gym because you might be stressed and like trying to fit that in and all this stuff. So it's like, okay, I'm going to find the things that work for me, walking pad, and then also like virtual support. Cool. That works for you. And knowing that like we can kind of pinhole ourselves into like thinking we have to do certain things to be taking care of a certain area of ourselves. And there's usually more options out there and there's no right way to do it. And then I also love just sharing that like, yes, all these things, this foundation of self-care, but also like sometimes it's like literally going on a drive and getting a treat for yourself because that's what's going to make you like feel good in that moment and come back to the situation and be able to actually like handle whatever's happening. And I think things like that sometimes can feel like, well, my self-care is like taking care of my body and taking care of my health. So I feel guilty when I do the other things. And it's like, well, was that something that made you feel good? And did it have some like long-term negative effect? Probably not. So like, let's just allow it to be the self-care that you want it to be. And I think there's so many things that, you know, can have that impact. Locking yourself in the bathroom for a few minutes just to get some peace and quiet. And you might feel guilty, like my kid needs me right now, but it's like, was that helpful? Did that help? Did it have long-term negative consequences? No. Okay, we're good. That is great self-care. If you needed it in the moment, amazing. So I think there was a lot of good stuff in there.
Oh, good. I like to give a lot of different ideas and definitely like on my Instagram and stuff. Like I just did a morning routine one with like 10 different ideas. So yeah, I give a lot of good stuff on there too, but it's fun to think about all the different things that we, you know, can do. And I think just realizing like what self-care means, it doesn't mean getting a massage every week, you know, it just, it's different for everybody, but
different for everyone.
Yeah. I love it because everyone is so different. And like, I've talked to moms before who are like, I have to go to the gym. I have to go to a trainer in person to be held accountable.
Totally.
But that doesn't work for me. So everyone, just knowing like what works for you and trial and error too, and giving yourself grace when you are trying something, but like, you know, listening to that like inner guidance in your higher self, like, are you feeling good after that? Is it making you feel better? Or is it like, not as effective? And if it's not as effective, like trying something new and being like, okay, do you want an online workout at home? Like those worked for me for a long time too. I loved that for like Pilates and stuff like that. But yeah,
I love it. Okay, Whitney, last question for you.
I'm ready.
Yes, it's an easy one. It should be easy. Where can listeners find you? And is there anything that they should keep an eye out for?
Yeah. So you can follow me at The Bold Mama Co, all one word, on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm on Facebook now too. I actually just created a Facebook group for the first time. So I'm super excited. So have all your moms join. I'm going to be giving away a lot of like free resources. I'm going to be going live. I am going to be doing a lot of like nurture content, actually have like real connections and build a real community of other moms. I don't want it to just be me. So yeah, follow me on Instagram and then take the link to the Facebook group and request to join my Facebook group.
Amazing. We can get all of that linked in the show notes. So it's nice and easy, one stop. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here and just like giving us your bright energy and all of that. I feel like this was such a great conversation to really like give us permission to take the steps we need to kind of get out of that overwhelm and feel more in control and empowered to like do the things with our lives that we want to do while being awesome moms. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to connect with your mamas, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day too.
Yes. And thank you for being here. You are worthy, Mama.